She was young, full of life, and on the adventure of a lifetime. Grace Millane had just turned 22. Her backpacking journey across the world was a rite of passage, a gift to herself after years of hard work and ambition. But within days of arriving in New Zealand, her path would fatally cross, with a man hiding a monstrous truth. What happened next would horrify a nation and leave a family shattered beyond repair. But before we get into today's disturbing case, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts down in the comments. This is the story of Grace Millane, a life filled with promise and a murder that shocked the world. Grace Emmy Rose Millane was born on December 2, 1996, in Wickford, Essex, England. She was the youngest of 3 children in a tight-knit, loving family. Her parents, David and Gillian Millane, raised her with warmth, encouragement, and a strong sense of right and wrong. Grace was smart, artistic, and compassionate. Her smile could brighten a room. Her father described her as a fun-loving, family-oriented daughter with a passion for travel. From an early age, Grace was drawn to photography. She had a natural eye for beauty, and by the time she reached university, she was already building a portfolio. She graduated from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing, and then, like many young people, she wanted to see the world before settling into her career. Grace's solo backpacking trip was her dream. South America, then New Zealand, then Australia. She documented her journey online, sharing photos and stories with friends and family. But she never made it past New Zealand. Auckland, New Zealand, a vibrant city that blends the energy of urban life with the calm of the surrounding coastline. It was here, in the final days of November 2018, that 22-year-old Grace Millane arrived after trekking through parts of South America. Her trip was a celebration of freedom, growth, and self-discovery, a gap year before adulthood truly began. She had been in Auckland just a few days, staying at the base backpackers hostel in the heart of the city. Grace's travel blog was filled with excitement about the places she'd seen and the people she'd met. She was young, social, and open to experience. As many travelers do, she turned to Tinder, not necessarily for love, but to meet locals, perhaps make a new friend, or share a drink with someone who could show her the city. On November 30th, she matched with a man named Jesse Kempson. His profile was carefully curated, photos with dogs, a sharp suit, the look of someone stable, confident. He said he was a successful businessman, so she swiped right and the two began messaging. He complimented her photography, asked about her travels. His tone was warm, playful. He suggested they meet for a birthday drink. Grace, who was turning 22 the next day, agreed. She told her friends she was excited for the date. She even sent a selfie, wearing a black dress, as she got ready in her hostel. But Grace had no way of knowing that Jesse Kempson was not who he appeared to be. Jesse Shane Kempson was born in 1991 in New Zealand. His early life was unstable. His parents divorced when he was young. He had a strained relationship with his family and struggled with rejection and self-worth. He moved between homes and schools, eventually losing contact with most of his relatives. In adulthood, Kempson became known for lying about his background, his job, and his achievements. He frequently posed as a wealthy businessman, an international traveler, even a CIA agent, to impress women.
He was coming over to New Zealand. He lived in Australia to buy bars to add to the franchise his father owned. That was his story.
But in reality, he lived in a small apartment at the City Life Hotel in Auckland and had a troubled past of violence, sexual misconduct, and manipulation. In the months before meeting Grace, Kempson had been using dating apps to lure women. Several later came forward with stories of disturbing encounters, ranging from emotional abuse to sexual assault. But none of them knew what he was capable of yet. The sun had already set over Auckland when Grace stepped out of the hostel. It was her birthday. She looked radiant, black Converse shoes, a black dress, a touch of makeup. She wasn't looking for trouble, just a night out, a toast to herself, perhaps even the thrill of flirting with someone new. She met Jesse Kempson at a bar in Auckland's Sky City complex. Security cameras recorded their first encounter, a hug, a smile, that awkward yet hopeful energy of a first date. They ordered drinks, then moved on to Andy's Burgers and Bar. They were chatting, drinking, laughing, and Kempson paid for the drinks. Grace appeared relaxed and trusting. It was just a casual Tinder date. She even messaged a friend. I click with him so well. He told her stories, lies as it would later turn out, that he was from Australia, that he had a law degree, that he worked in media. But to Grace, none of it raised alarms. He was charismatic, responsive, seemingly harmless. Over the next 2 hours, they wandered from bar to bar, talking about travel, photography, life goals, all caught on CCTV. At 9:41 p.m., they entered the City Life Hotel. Jesse Kempson's apartment was on the 3rd floor. Grace followed him inside, and the door shut behind them. What happened inside that room over the next few hours remains only partially known, but the aftermath tells a chilling tale. According to Kempson, the two had consensual rough sex, and Grace asked to be choked. But pathologists later testified that the pressure applied to her neck lasted too long to be accidental or sexual. After undressing, they began being intimate. Kempson, obsessed with violent pornography, as confirmed by his browser history, may have escalated things. At some point during their encounter, he wrapped his hands around her throat and began to squeeze, but he didn't stop. Medical experts testified that Grace would have been conscious for at least 5 to 10 seconds and unconscious before death. She died of sustained pressure to the neck, strangulation. Instead of calling emergency services, Kempson took photographs of Grace's naked body. Then, in the early hours of the morning, he watched porn on his phone, drank alcohol, and searched horrific terms. Flesh-eating birds, hottest fire, Waitaka Ranges, large duffel bags. In the morning, he left the hotel and rented a Toyota Corolla. He returned back to the hotel and carefully packed Grace Millane's body into a new suitcase he had bought the previous day. CCTV showed him returning to the hotel carrying the suitcase. He placed Grace's body inside and loaded it into the trunk. She was curled up, lifeless, stripped of her dignity, her birthday dress now stiff with dried blood. Kempson walked to the car with a chilling calmness, like a man carrying laundry rather than human remains. There was no panic in his step, no hesitation. Then he started driving. For a while, he simply cruised through the streets of Auckland, not toward a specific location, but in a state of grim calculation. Somewhere in his mind, he must have been weighing his options. Where could he go? Where could he hide what he had done? Eventually, he pulled into the parking lot of a local supermarket called Countdown. He got out and walked inside, casually grabbing items off the shelves. Bleach, cleaning cloths, rubber gloves, ordinary supplies for an extraordinary crime. Surveillance cameras caught it all. He paid in cash and returned to the hotel like it was just another errand. Back in room 308 of the City Life Hotel, the scene of the murder, he began his cleanup. He scrubbed the bathroom floor and wiped down surfaces. He sprayed chemicals into the carpet, trying to erase the blood that had soaked in, but Grace's presence lingered in that room, silent, permanent, unerasable. When he finished, he didn't hide in fear. He didn't flee the city. He didn't call the police. Instead, he went on another Tinder date. Yes, barely hours after murdering Grace, Jesse Kempson met up with another woman he had matched with. They had drinks together at a local bar. He played the same charming, confident role he had with Grace, but this time, he added a disturbing twist. He told the woman that a friend of his had recently died and that he was struggling with grief. She would later recall how he looked her in the eyes and spoke, unshaken, about how people can just vanish in the forests around Auckland. At the time, she thought it was strange. Afterward, she realized she had been sitting across from a man who had already made someone vanish. That evening, after drinks, Kempson left the city and drove west along winding roads that snaked into the Waitakere Ranges, a lush, remote area of dense forest, rugged cliffs, and misty trails. It was quiet out there, isolated, the kind of place where no one would hear you scream or see what you buried, but his GPS later revealed every move. At a secluded roadside clearing, he pulled over. He dragged the heavy suitcase from the trunk and stumbled through thick underbrush. Somewhere in the undergrowth, under towering trees and damp earth, he stopped and began digging. No ceremony, no burial rites, just a hole, a shallow grave. He placed Grace, still inside the suitcase, into the ground. He covered her with soil, sticks, leaves, a crude attempt to hide the horror, to erase the evidence. Then, without a pause, he returned to Auckland. Along the way, he threw out Grace's belongings, including her camera and makeup bag, scattering pieces of her life into public trash bins like they meant nothing. By nightfall, Kempson was back in the city. He cleaned the rental car, he washed his clothes, he even checked into a different hotel, preparing for life to go on, as if nothing had happened. What he didn't know was that his time was running out. Because Grace's parents were already growing worried, and Auckland police were already watching CCTV. And soon someone would ask the question that would crack his carefully constructed lie wide open. Where is Grace Millane? Grace's family grew increasingly worried when she failed to respond to birthday messages on December 2nd. Her father, David, said it was immediately unusual. Grace was close to her family, always texting. On December 5th, after 3 days of silence, they contacted New Zealand police. A missing person report was filed. The investigation was swift, and detectives pulled hostile records, digital footprints, and CCTV footage. They traced her last known location to Sky City. There, they saw her entering a hotel with a man. Police went to the City Life Hotel. Hotel records confirmed the apartment was booked under Kempson's name. By then, he had cleaned it. But forensic teams found traces of Grace's blood on the carpet, in the bathroom, around the mattress, so they brought Kempson in for questioning. At first, he lied. He claimed they had drinks, parted ways, and she must have gone elsewhere, but police had surveillance of them going into the building, none of her ever leaving.
Tell us about Grace. So I was talking to Grace on Tinder. We'd matched on Friday. I saw that we'd matched the next day on the Saturday.
How did the evening pan out?
Yeah, pretty good. I didn't initially know that she was real.
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of... So have you heard of catfish?
How did the evening sort of come to an end?
There was a hug and a kiss on the cheek and a thanks, nice meeting you. And then I said, let me know about tomorrow. And she said, okay. And then,
You don't know if she's been murdered or not yet. She may be alive and well.
okay.
But she might also be dead. Okay? And it could be that you've done it.
Hey, I just want to ask a question. Have I been arrested for something I didn't do?
You haven't been arrested, mate.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Holy.
They pressed him, so his story began to change.
Started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey, which is a sex fantasy movie that's out. We started having sex. At first it was just normal. It was very placid. And then she asked me if we could get into bondage. And then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I need to stop. I need to go.
Would you like some fresh air?
Yeah, please. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't believe what had happened. I was just terrified and scared. I thought that she had gone. I thought she had left.
Pathologist, specialist doctor, will perform a post-mortem.
Yeah.
They're very skilled at establishing people's causes of death. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Did you kill Grace Millane? Okay. You're under arrest for the murder of Grace Millane on or about the 2nd of December. You understand?
Yeah.
He admitted Grace died during sex. He said he panicked, but investigators already had his internet searches, his trip to buy the suitcase, the rental car GPS. They tracked the vehicle's movement to the Waitakere Ranges. On December 8th, officers found a shallow grave. Inside, curled inside the suitcase, was Grace Millane's body. She had been buried with carelessness, dirt and leaves barely covering her. Her family had to be notified. Across the world, in Essex, her father received the call. They told him that his daughter is dead, and Kempson was arrested the same day. Kempson's trial began in November 2019. He pleaded not guilty. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, grieving family, strangers touched by Grace's story. The defense pushed the idea of accidental death. Kempson sat in the dock each day wearing a suit, hair neatly styled. He didn't cry. He didn't look at Grace's family. He barely reacted to the devastating evidence presented.
You're so full of shit. You have no reason to convict me. You're full of
Occasionally, he whispered with his lawyers or watched the proceedings with detached interest, as if the trial were happening to someone else. For 3 weeks, the courtroom was gripped by the unraveling of his lies. His defense hinged on one disturbing argument, that Grace had asked to be choked, and he had obliged. They described it as rough, but consensual sex gone wrong. His lawyer told the jury that Kempson had panicked after realizing she was dead and made bad decisions, but insisted there had been no intent to harm her. But the prosecution revealed a damning pattern: internet searches, deception, the cold, calculated disposal of a body. They revealed Kempson's history. While not shared with the jury at the time, it later emerged he had sexually assaulted multiple women. His browser history was filled with violent pornography. He had searched Brie, the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, choked to death. They also found bruises on Grace's arms and chest, consistent with a violent struggle, and a neck injury that experts said could only come from sustained pressure lasting several minutes, not a brief, consensual act. When Jesse Kempson took the stand, he told the jury Grace had asked to be choked. He claimed he passed out drunk and woke up to find her dead. He said he panicked, but under cross-examination, his story shifted repeatedly. The prosecution asked, if it was an accident, why didn't you call for help? Kempson had no good answer. He avoided eye contact. He mumbled and forward. His composure began to crack. By then, it was too late. The jury took just 5 hours to find him guilty, and on November 22, 2019, Jesse Kempson was found guilty of murder. Then in February 2020, Jesse Kempson was sentenced to life in prison with a non-parole period of 17 years. Grace's family traveled to New Zealand for the trial. Her father David spoke tearfully of his daughter's warmth, her strength, her future. He died just 9 months later of cancer, after reportedly never recovering from the grief. Grace's body was repatriated to the UK. She was buried in her hometown of Wickford. Thousands attended the funeral. Her mother, Gillian, said, "We wake every morning to face a world without Grace." Outrage in New Zealand led to vigils nationwide. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern publicly apologized to Grace's family. Later, after the murder trial in 2021, he was convicted in 2 separate trials for rape, assault, and threatening behavior involving multiple women. These cases had been suppressed during the murder trial to ensure a fair verdict. In Grace's name, her family launched the Love Grace initiative, collecting handbags filled with essentials for women fleeing domestic violence. A small legacy of light in a world darkened by grief. Grace Millane didn't die in silence. Her story was heard around the world, and though her life was stolen, her spirit lives on, as a daughter, a friend, a traveler, and a young woman who deserved so much more than she was given.